Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Tarot Today Live. How's everybody doing today? I see folks coming into the chat. Hey, Mary.
Hello.
How's it
Hey,
going,
everybody.
everyone? Yeah. Another
Happy Monday.
Woo, another Monday. Woo. Laura's in
Yay.
there. Sharon, Laura, Sharona. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
And Laura's commenting. They're not even paying attention to us. They're talking to each other in the chat there. They're like, Laura says to Sharona, you had a great article in the Tarot School newsletter last week or this week. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Great. I think I missed that one. I usually get the tarot tips, but I think I missed that newsletter. Here we are, another Monday, April. We're in April. Oh my God. We are in April 3rd. Oh, what's going on, Mary?
Here we are. Not much. How about all those crazy tornadoes happening everywhere? I hope everybody's safe and sound now. I hope that ends soon. It's nuts.
Yes. And Trump's on his way to New York to get arraigned. I love it. We're not a political
exciting
show,
stuff. Thank God.
So here we are on the 3rd. Hey, it's that creativity energy. I mean, this is a great day to bang it out. In fact, the whole date reduces to a 5, Mary. So
wow. A
there's
5.
But it's great. You combine that with creativity, you have all that energy, and it's that adventurous spirit. 5's also the number of change. And so, hey, I think we can, get going with, I think all the creative juices are flowing today, folks. And I pulled some cards. I got
What did you get?
The Ace of Wands. I mean, what a great card to get on a Monday. New opportunities coming in, and along with that 3 energy, and you got the creativity and communication number there, and then you've got that great energy from the 5 date, to do that. But tarot likes to give advice, so we got, along with that, the devil card. So there are, there's many names for the devil. One of them is the Prince of Lies. So, what lies are you telling to yourself about, oh, I can't start that, I can't do that, I can't manifest that? That's what you need to look at today. You got to let go of the stinking thinking, they used to call it, the stinking thinking. What'd you get for a card of the day, Mary?
Well, I got using the Ludi Lescott tarot deck today, and I got an ace too. I got the Ace of Swords. So it's a great day to put those thoughts into action, focus on, just one idea, one concept that you have. If you're somebody who's like, I've got all these different things going on today, like drill down on just one of them. And I also pulled a card from the Lyran Oracle, the 5th dimensional white lion beings from the, what is it, constellation Lyra. That's like the basis of the deck, but it's really great, infinite wisdom, and it's asking us to explore a little bit deeper. So together, that's really saying like, okay, today's a great day to focus on just one thing and really, dig down deep into it. Really, instead of just like, I have an idea to do that, maybe it's time to like develop that idea a little bit and just see like, how practical it is to follow through on it. So that's what I got.
I think that goes in alignment with what I got too. So Laura, by the way, is one of our members, and she says she's definitely feeling the 5 energy today. Hopefully the good side of the 5 energy. There's
I was gonna say
to each coin. Sometimes the energy can spiral down. 5 it can be real fast. It can spiral down into chaos, folks, you know, and so you got to be on top of it. You got to use it productively. Doing some shuffling here.
Shuffling.
Shuffling. We're shuffling, something like that. Oh, let's see. So, as you all know, at least the regulars, that it is all about you guys in the chat room here on YouTube on Mondays. So pop those questions in there. Remember, you can ask about the Tarot Guild, becoming a member, getting professional reader certification, general questions about tarot, numerology, Reiki, crystals, hypnotherapy, NLP, life coaching. Oh my God, I could go on for hours. All that is fair game. Maybe you just have a simple website question, you know, our official website. I don't know if you can see it right here, but go that way. Okay, there it is. thetarotguild.com. Yeah, you know, you have a question where something is, you know, I could even bring up the screen share and show you right here live. That's right. We're here for all your questions. But of course, you can also ask for a mini reading about something. Maybe you just want us to pull a card for you, something general. Just pop that in there. Please pull a card for me. Or if you got a very specific question, just type the question in. Yeah, there's no waiting. You don't have to get on a list or anything. Just pop it in the chat. We got a question already from Nancy. Nancy Ramsey came in too. Nancy's in there. Laura, Sharona.
Hey, everybody.
Sharon. Yes. Growing Old with Purpose. Yes. Rosie's here.
Rosie.
Hey, Rosie. So I think the first question's from Nancy. Will I be moving into the Indigo apartments in July? Thank you. Now, I want to know what that means. Is Indigo?
It sounds cool.
Is Indigo like the color, or is it like the Indigo Children's apartments? Remember the Indigo Children?
Oh,
Star
right.
Children, Star
The
Seed
new age
Children,
thingy.
New Age stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going first?
I can, sure. Why not? You know?
Cool, because I'm still shuffling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like I don't know, Nancy, what's going on with that for you? It seems like there's, you know, some work to be done, doing things with other people, but the main card that I'm getting here is the 6 of Pentacles. 6 is the success number in numerology. So yeah, I think it's going to happen. Okay. There's a lot of balance going on in this card, dealing with the material. So, you know, maybe finances, things along that route there. And then the High Priestess shows up to remind us and to remind you to, you know, listen to your intuition, your gut instincts on this, you know, for any of the details. And the 3 of Pentacles, you know, working on a project with a group of people. So that's where I got the feeling that you might need to work on this a little bit with some other people, you know, to make sure it's going to happen and so forth. But hey, overall card looks really, really positive here. What about you, Mary? What you getting for Nancy?
Yeah, you know, it looks pretty positive on this end too. The central focus card is the Wheel of Fortune. And so some change is going to be happening. That's a good card to come up on, like, are we going to be moving? I did get the 7 of Pentacles. So maybe, you know, it takes a little time. You know, sometimes that can be a card of expectations and needing to be a little bit patient. Also got the Knight of Pentacles. So that could, again, indicate like it takes a little bit of time because slow, steady progress with the Knight, but there's this movement towards that. And then the 6 of Wands, another 6. You got the 6 of Pentacles. I got the 6 of Wands, and that generally, you know, is a great card of
I like
success. Yeah, so it looks good, Nancy.
Yes, and Tarot Vita is in there. Tarot channels on YouTube. Yeah, nice to see Avita. Let's see. Growing Old with Purpose. I think Rosie was talking about those tornadoes you mentioned. And she said, we had sirens blasting a few times here. D even handed me a helmet. My daughter
Yeah.
ended up in the basement with her family during one of these.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
there's nothing as bone chilling to me as those tornado sirens.
Yeah, and then
We
you
get
got
them
those crazy
every once in a while
tornado
here.
chasers. I mean, I could never do that.
Yeah, I've got friends that do that here because it's like, it's a great place to do it. Panhandle of Texas. I mean, you're never bored with that kind of job here. But yeah, well, I hope everybody was okay. All your friends and family. I know friends of mine in Fort Worth had the sirens going off, I think yesterday, when it was like focused on North Texas. But man, yeah, I've been watching the news and seeing the devastation in Little Rock. And it's just, my heart goes out to all those people because wow, that
Mm,
was a lot. Heavy duty.
mm. So let's see what else questions we're getting. And Nancy says the name of the apartments. Yeah, we knew that. I was just fooling around with the indigo thing. I thought that was cute. I want to live in apartments called indigo.
It sounds cool.
Yeah. Are they colored cool though? That's the thing. Hey, a lot
Are
of,
they indigo color, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Sweat
Before we go to another
sucker.
question, real quickly, I wanted to tell people, I know it's a little early, but I wanted to put out there, we do have a workshop coming up
Mm.
on the 23rd, because I know we have a lot of our Tarot Guild members watch the lives and watch the recording of the lives later on. And there's a whole bunch of our members actually in here right now. In fact, they're mostly members, right? But Gary Karp, our director of professional development, he's going to be doing a free workshop. Everybody can attend this. If you go over to the website, thetarotguild.com, you'll see this banner right with Gary's picture and everything right there on the main page. Click on that. You get all the details. You can get the Zoom link. It'll be via Zoom, April 23rd, 4 p.m. Eastern US time. All the other times are written in there for you. And it's on building consistency and brand awareness with multiple streams of income. So for the professional tarot advisor, as well as other spiritual entrepreneurs, he's going to be talking about the value of having multiple streams of income, not putting all your eggs in one basket, like say doing one-on-one readings, but expanding beyond that, which also expands your brand awareness, and consistency. And then what ends up happening is that brings, more attention to your main thing, whatever your main gig is, like doing readings, or maybe you're an astrologer or a numerologist. This is good for anybody that does anything helping people, So another great free workshop coming up on April 23rd. So mark your calendar, and on these shows, we'll remind you a few more times as we get closer to the workshop with Gary. Yeah. And in case you missed it, we had that workshop with Corby Mitleid a couple Sundays ago, and that's available here on the channel and on the website, thetarotguild.com as well. Let's see. Now you're up first this time, Mary. Let's see. Let me see if I have a question for you though. Oh, it's Sharon. So Sharon wants to know, please, 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 when will I finally get a full-time job, going back to work in accounting?
Mm. When will you finally get a full-time job working in accounting? Okay, so looking at that. It's interesting. As far as the timing of it, actually, it's kind of weird, but it's doable. Okay. So look, I got the Queen of Cups in my timing position. Don't you love that when that happens? But look, the Queen of Cups, and I just want to verify this real quick. June 11th to June. Okay. Queen of Cups as a timing card is the period of June 11th to July 11th. Now, this is using the Golden Dawn, you know, decadent, you know, using the
Oh.
decans to measure that. But I've had those associations for a really long time. So anytime I get like a court card in the timing position, which generally you really don't want it in the timing position. But when that happens, I go by the Golden Dawn. And so it's saying like June 11th to July 11th, like that's your window for getting that permanent position. Now, before that happens, though, we do have the Hermit card. You know, it can be kind of quiet with the Hermit card. It's saying like really, you know, dig deep into that, do some research, find, you know, the right places to be applying to. And also the Knight of Cups, you know, gives you something to consider, like where do you want to work, you know? Um, Going into accounting, you know, if that is your passion, if that's something you really want, then great, you know. Look at the companies and research them a bit and see like what the vibe is, and it does that really, are you excited about it? You know, are you excited
Mm.
about it? Because with the Knight of Cups, it's cups, it's how we feel. So that's what I get as far as a time frame between
Mm.
June 11th and July 11th for
Mm.
a permanent job. But you know, you might do some other work in the meantime. What
Oh.
are you getting?
Well, I see she's making slow progress towards that goal. You know, it's looking pretty good here. Star card shows up to say, you know, you got to focus on the hope, you know, focus on the positive. Um, that's going to make it come faster, you know, is to hold on to that. And then for the timing, the World card, which is another really positive card to get. Card 21, so 2 + 1 is 3. 3 months from now is right in that time frame, Mary, that you're talking about. But I got to tell you, when I pulled the cards, I was pulling the cards just as you were starting to talk, Mary, and I got this timing card, and I thought, you know, hey, it could happen as fast as 21 days.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but I think that has to do with your mental attitude. It's all energy and our mental attitude about things. You know, the more we resist, the longer it takes. And that's why I think, you know, literally the hope card, the star card shows up, because you got to be focused on the positive, and that way it happens faster, you know.
Mm.
Just my
Yeah. And
two
I do want to say one thing though, is that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, anytime you get a tarot reading on like when something is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is maybe just my philosophy, but or my approach, but you know, when you ask that question, we're looking at the trajectory that you're on now. So going about it the way that you're going about it right now to get that permanent job, you know, those are, you know, maybe it happens at 21 days, maybe it takes until that June, July timeframe that I was seeing. But that's if you keep doing things the way that you're doing them now. You can always change it up if you don't like those time frames. You know, you could say, okay, you know what? I need to change my trajectory. I need to change my approach to this. And that can impact things. Either way, it can impact things, you know, can make it happen faster or make it take longer. But, you know, think about that too. What can you change about the way that you're approaching this job search? And that can impact, you know, how quickly it's going to happen. So
Awesome sauce. Well, I hope that helped you out. That was Sharon, right? I think that was
mm,
Sharon. Yeah. So if anybody else wants us to pull a card or has a question, pop it into the chat. If you have a question about tarot or reading methods or individual cards or numerology or anything, just type it in the chat. And if you have any questions, of course, about the guild or, you know, everything surrounding that, my course, professional tarot reader certification, uh, any details or anything that, you know, you're not 100% sure of. That's why we're here on these Zooms as well, so we can answer your questions. While we're waiting for, it's kind of a quiet Monday. There's, all of our regulars, or a lot of our regulars, but we've gone through all the questions. So let's see if anybody else wants us to pull some cards for them. But in the meantime, I'm just going to mention about what's coming up on the network,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see, it's not quite the bottom of the hour, but hey, we've got extra time. So, and I just finished setting up April. And so I have more details than I did before. Yeah. Unfortunately, Maria Moss has had to go on hiatus yet again. And she's helping her husband with some, family matters, medical stuff, and everything like that. So, almost said Magic Universe. No, Sharona's still here. The Angelic View is on hiatus indefinitely. So, just letting you guys know that we're not having a show every Sunday now. Now it's only going to be the second and fourth Sundays with Magic Universe. Of course, Mary and I'll be back on Saturday, April 8th with our usual YouTube video live stream and simulcast on Blog Talk Radio on the Psychic Talk Radio Network. And I should mention that you can always find out what the upcoming shows are in two easy places. You can go to the psychictalk.net website, psychictalk.net/upcoming, and it has the whole list there. Also, for those of you that are on the Tarot Guild website, just look under events on the Tarot Guild, thetarotguild.com/events. Yeah, we have everything listed out for you. And we'll be back on the 8th. And then Sunday, April 9th is Magic Universe with Sharona Rapsick. She's going to have returning guest Sheila Height. And they're going to be talking about tarot and spiritual odysseys. And the picture, you guys have to go and look at the image, the banner. And because I used a picture from of Sheila. She's like, right there at the entrance going to the Sphinx in Egypt. And that's what this is about, the trips to Egypt, tarot and spiritual odysseys through Egypt. And then, of course, we'll be back next Monday, April 10th. So that's what's all coming up. As long as I got this open, you can also mark your calendars for Sunday, April 23rd. That's when Sharona will be back 2 weeks after this coming Sunday. And she's going to have back on the show the fabulous Susan Wands, who's doing that Arcana Oracle series. And she had done remember the book Magician and Fool? Sharona had her on no, I think it was it May of 2022 or May of 2021? I know it was in May. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah, had that great interview. There was that video on YouTube, and Susan was in New York doing a presentation of the book and everything, and Cranston came up, the actor, and schmoozed. He's supporting the arts.
Cool.
It was really, really cool. Anyway, her next two books, High Priestess and Empress, and the third one, Emperor and Hierophant, are in final edits. So they're going to be coming out soon. And Sharona's going to have her on Susan Wands, April 23rd. So there you go.
Cool.
Some of the cool stuff going on. Let's look back in the chat here. Anything else you wanted to mention, Mary? Things going on in the tarot world or the decks and publishing world? Our director of communication,
Well, one thing I did want to say is that I have decided to discontinue
Hmm.
doing the There's a Rock for That on the Psychic Talk Radio Network. I'm kind of reworking the show. I think it's probably going to end up being like maybe just a YouTube show on the Pterodactyl Experience channel, just to kind of, because I've been kind of putting the videos there anyways. But yeah, so for people that were wondering, I had a couple people like ask me what crystal I'm talking about this month. And I'm always talking about a lot of different crystals every month, but not on the air. So this month there isn't going to be There's a Rock for That, but probably that'll get relaunched as a YouTube show in May. And actually you'll get to see the crystals instead of me just describing them, what they look like. So that's the news I have.
Awesome. Yeah. I actually like that idea a lot because of the visuals. And,
Right?
I mean, tarot's that
Like,
way.
don't you want to
Tarot,
see it?
yeah, I mean, see, tarot's that way. And that's why I'm really glad that we're, doing the simulcast on Saturdays and the YouTube show on Mondays, because
Yeah.
they get to actually see the cards, and we can share different decks and the images from decks and do deck reviews and
Yeah.
everything. People want to see the visual. Well, crystals are kind of that way too. It's all
Oh
about,
yeah.
besides the properties, it's all about how gorgeous they are and the different colors and shapes. And
Yeah. This is a
ooh,
Crescelli bluestone
I like
sphere
that.
that I
Hmm.
got from I had to order it from England. That's the bluestones from the Preseli Mountains that are the bluestones at Stonehenge. Um, so it's a great stone if you want to, if you have Celtic ancestry and want to connect with your
Uh,
ancestors. And also, it's got blue and green in it. So it's great for the throat chakra and the heart chakra as well.
yeah. So feedback from Sharon. See, I always mix the two up. We got Sharon in there and we got Sharon. So Sharon's the one that asked the question, and she said, "Interesting. I'm up for a temp to permanent
Mm.
position. They only hire that way, and will offer permanent after 3 months. Fits right in with your timing."
Wow, that's perfect. And that Knight of Cups, remember that, and get a really good feel
Hmm.
for the place and see, like,
Yeah.
do you want to stay there? Or do you like the vibe?
Yeah, we always, talk about what the company's doing, but what about ourselves? You got to think about yourself. Use it as an opportunity.
You
Decide for
really
yourself.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because there's nothing like being in a miserable job for a really long period of time. You may have your permanent position. You may be like, holding down the fort, bringing home the bacon or whatever. But if it's killing your soul, it may not be worth it.
yeah, yeah. And as far as in news as well, April 6th is the official publication date for Nicole's Kickstart Your Tarot business. Nicole Colella, and she is known as Card Shaper on the tarotguild.com. She's one of our members, as well as one of our certified members as well. She's got her CTR, and she studied with Dusty White and wrote this book about how to kickstart your tarot business. And I'm working on an interview with her. We're in negotiations, getting that all set up. And I was reading her book, read her book over the weekend, and be on the lookout for that coming up real shortly here. I have another book idea that I just interview idea, Mary, that I just um, came across today. And let's see, I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. I was on YouTube, and one of our great tarot people, here, where's my history? I'll bring it up here. Let's see. Yeah, it's Elliot Adams. Because he's got a book coming out, and it's really
Who's a
interesting.
publisher?
I think Llewellyn, but let me check. Maybe I can find it on, because I did find it on Amazon. I did a search for it earlier, but I just wanted to let you guys know about this because, let's see, Adams Tarot. Do a search here because he came out in 2020 with Fearless Tarot, but his new book is Tarot in Love: Consulting the Cards in Matters of the Heart. And I really want to get him on for an interview. And I'll tell you why, because hold on, I gotta bring my camera back up because I can't see myself or you. Everything was hidden behind all these pages where I'm doing searches. I really like to get him on. He's brilliant, just brilliant, and very, very young. But I didn't read his first book, but I think I'm going to get that and his new book because he does great stuff. You know, just watching him on YouTube and reading his blog on his website. And you don't see a lot of books like this. Well, just like
Well, Cooch Daniels did that. You know, she did that Tarot Day L'Amour,
yeah,
you know, which is all about tarot and love. I've seen a few books like that, but they're usually, it's weird, but I usually don't see a lot of men writing books like that.
Right.
So that would be interesting to hear that perspective.
Yeah, that's a very interesting little, twist on it. But just like with Nicole's book on the business of tarot, and then this book on a very specific area of tarot, we keep getting the recipe books and the beginner books and things like that. And so it's really exciting that we're finally getting some stuff like this. Well, it actually started years ago. I think remember when Tarot Diva came out? It's like, okay, here's
Sasha's
something.
book.
Sasha's her first one. It's like, here's something.
It had a good time. Yeah, it had a good title, had an exciting cover. I think she had the sunglasses that looked very Hollywood. And then Christiana Gaudet's Fortune Stellar.
Fortune Stellar,
they just reissued that last year or the year before. I mean, that's been kind of like the consummate book on tarot business and really covers all the bases. But yeah, we do need more books like that. The same thing was happening for a while. And I think it's still the same with court cards and with reversals. We've got a few books out there on reversals. We've got a couple books out there on court cards. But for the most part, it seems like everything's more or less like just the same old stuff.
Oh, another example, we've got hundreds, if not thousands of tarot books, and there's 2 books on tarot birth cards. It's the same thing. Oh, was it Christine Jett that wrote the Tarot Professionals book way back? This is way back. This is like 2000 and
I don't know.
Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to look that one up, while we're chatting here. But hey, lots of great book ideas that Mary and I just threw out at everybody. So if you want to go check that out. Yeah, but let me see if I can find this real quick. It's Jetty, Jetty, Jette. And I'm
not ringing a bell for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, we even interviewed her and everything. Was it Christine? Let's see if I can get okay, I found one of her books, Tarot Shadow Work. Oh, here it is. Oh yeah, I even remember the cover. Okay, Tarot, wait. Let me get this right. Professional Tarot: The Business of Reading, Consulting, and Teaching. And that was from 2003, Mary.
Yeah.
Going way back. Yeah, that was one of the very first ones. So we do have a question in the chat. Let's check this out here. Laura has a question. How much longer is my part-time bartending job going to last? I affectionately call it my devil card. And it's interesting because she calls it that particular job the devil card, and then the devil card was one of my cards of the day. I love synchronicities. So how much longer?
Is it going to last? Is it my turn? Your turn? I can't remember.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. This is very interesting. Okay, so I got the King of Wands and the Six of Wands. Now take a look at this, how they fell. All right. And the success, you got the success card over here, but he's heading towards the future. The King of Wands is looking towards the past. And they have their backs to each other. You know, what is that conflict that's going on for you? Do you really want for it to end, you know, is my question. The timing card is 6. So that can be a wide range of time, you know, 6 weeks to 6 months. But the first thing I thought of was like, you know, 6 months for some reason. I don't know. That's what I'm getting as far as timing on, you know, actually answering your question exactly as you asked it. How much longer is it gonna? It can last up to 6 months, but you know, something could happen in you know, in the next 6 weeks. Yeah. But it seems like you have, you know, it's all wands cards. It's like, you know, you have like this passion around it. And if you think about the devil card, you know, to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, so Laura said, you hit it right on the head. I'm conflicted. Yep. It's fast money, but it's exhausting. Yes, it's exhausting. I did it. And, you know, I did bartending, bar backing, things like that. It is a lot of work, you know, and I'm old and that's why I can't do it now. Yeah. But let's see what Mary's getting. Mary, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah.
The
Well,
devil
yeah, I do.
bartending.
The devil bartending job, you know, it's like I feel like you're doing it for the money, right? We got the 8 of Pentacles, we got the 10 of Pentacles. It's like, okay, we have that. On the other side of it, I've got 2 kings, right? And one's looking like straight ahead, and the other one's, you know, kind of looking towards that past and what's behind us. And right in the center, the main card that I think really matters is the 3 of Wands, you know, and it's saying like, okay, it's time to really take a look at that. You know, it's exhausting, but it's good money, it's extra money. You got to kind of figure out like, okay, at what point is it not worth it anymore? You know, you could decide that 3 weeks from now, you know, the earliest. But, you know, with that 8 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles, I tend to kind of think, yeah, you know, it can last a lot longer than that too. You know, Dak said 6 months. I would go as far as saying like through the end of the year, you know, if you wanted to. I mean, I feel like the ball's in your court as far as how long do you want it to last? Because you could just, you know, one day say, okay, you know what? I'm good. I need my time back. I don't need to be exhausting myself all the time just to make some extra money. But, you know,
Yeah,
money makes the world go round,
I totally
keeps a
agree
roof
with that.
over our head.
And looking at some feedback from Laura, I love it, but I'm getting older, just like I said. And, you know, I knew that from just looking at the cards, and with the King of Wands looking to the past, you know, that I know I just had this feeling. It's like, oh, come on, she's exhausted, but she loves it. She loves it. She calls it her devil card job. You
Yeah,
know,
she's
it's her.
attached to it.
It's what's the common saying? I'm trying to think of guilty pleasure. It's like a guilty pleasure. It's fast money. It's rewarding that way, but it's also rewarding in other ways, you know, and in
Yeah.
interacting with people. And I loved it when I, you know, did it for when I first moved back here to Tucson. I worked at Brody's bar for a long time.
Mm.
But it wasn't super long though. It was like year and a half, 2 years. It was long to me because I was already old. Now I'm really old, and but it was so fun. It was great,
Yeah.
while it lasted. Um, let's see. There was something else. Oh, yeah. Sharona reminded me in chat that we were just talking about Sasha Graham. She is going to be Sharona's guest on Magic Universe on May 28th. So you can mark your calendars. May 28th show. It's going to be Sasha back again. Oh, it's so cool.
Awesome.
She's having all of her guests that she had on like over the last year or two back on again. And it's really neat to see all these returning guests. Sharona, who was it? Something divine. The one that does the palm reading is so fascinating. She'll let us know in the chat because I forgot his name.
It was great though.
But I love that. Something completely different, palm reading. But when she had him back on, it was like it was tarot and palm reading.
Mhm. Yeah, I
It's
do
James
remember that.
Divine. James
James
Divine.
Divine. See,
Yeah.
you have the divine part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Laura
awesome.
says it's my social outlet as well. And I've
Sure.
always called my bar my first experience in tarot.
Oh,
Interesting.
wow.
So my question for you, Laura, is do you do readings at the bar? That would be so cool. Can you imagine a bartender that's a tarot reader too? I mean, it's like the best of all worlds. I mean, think about it.
Right.
People go to tarot readers because we are non-judgy, inexpensive psychotherapists. And why do they go to bartenders and talk to the bartenders endlessly? Because they're doing the same thing. It's very inexpensive for a tip. You get, some of the best psychology advice I ever got was from a bartender. Now imagine
Sure.
you combine the two together and you've got something great. So Laura,
Yeah.
do you do that?
Side hustle.
Someone else said that too. Laura said, yeah, you should totally do that. Maybe stop the grind a bit, but switch slowly into more of, yeah, I'm there at the bar, but I'm doing readings instead of, hustling the drinks and washing the dishes and everything else you have to do as a bartender. But yeah, maybe transition, and so you still got the same atmosphere. It's the same thing with coffee that happened to me. I've had my own coffee bars and coffee businesses and coffee houses, and I've always loved going to coffee houses, and I loved being a barista. I was a master barista for a decade. Love doing that, which is very akin to being a bartender. In fact, barista is Italian for bartender. Well, that transitioned from me doing that to doing readings in the coffee
Mm.
house. And
Oh,
by
cool.
the way, I don't know if you've ever been in line at Starbucks at 6 a.m., or 7 a.m.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was stressful when I lived in San Francisco, when I lived in San Diego and was a barista. And oh my God, those mornings were treacherous. I mean, just as bad as a Saturday night at a bar,
Oh,
and
right.
yeah, and it was exhausting. And so I transitioned. I was still going to the same coffee houses and enjoying the same atmosphere, but instead I had my tarot cards with me instead, and I was doing tarot readings instead of being a barista. I closed my last coffee house in San Diego in 2009, the end of 2009, right before we launched the guild and the first radio show online in January of 2010. Let's
Wow.
see any more.
Crazy.
Yeah, Sharona confirmed James Divine, Divine Hand Jim, they call him. Oh, And
All
you
right.
can go over to the Tarot Guild site, thetarotguild.com, and you can search James Divine, and the show will pop up. And go check it out. Listen to when she had him back on just few weeks back, maybe a month back or so. Growing old with purpose. Okay, so you know who we're missing is Charlotte. I just noticed that. Charlotte.
And Jason's still in Colombia
Jason's
on
still in Columbia.
vacation.
Yep. There's some of our other regulars haven't been in a while either. But Rosie's talking about, my folks owned a tavern bar out in the country in Wisconsin. Is that what you're saying? In Wisconsin, was it in the early 60s? Wow. And let's see. I'm going to Laura says I'm going to have to look into that further for sure. Yes. Make the transition. Do it. Do it. Hey, you may end up making as good, if not better, money tip wise, depending on what you're charging, doing readings at the bar, or at least continue to supplement your income to some extent. Because I know bartenders, depending on the bar, I mean, you can make a lot of money. I understand the fast money, but depending on what you price your tarot readings, you're there Friday, Saturday nights doing readings, if it's something you want to do, I think it'd be totally cool. Totally cool. I kind of miss that. I haven't done that in years, Mary. Reading at coffee houses. That only happens every once in a while when I have a local client and they want to do a reading. And if they're a member of one of the VSOs, like the Legion or the VFW, whatever, we'll go over there, have a drink, and pull some cards. If they're not, or I'll invite them to go, but if they don't want to go to a bar, we'll go to a coffee house. But it's so rare these days. I used to be in the coffee houses all the time, but now it's all virtual, over
Yeah.
Zoom.
It's called a global pandemic that's just dragged on for years. Kind of affects things,
Yeah. I like it though. I still remember reading in the old days, and we didn't have this. Oh yeah, we had phone readings. We had, the psychic lines. Remember the psychic lines and all that stuff.
I
But
wish there were still, I miss the psychic fair thing. I do.
yeah,
That was something that
well,
was at
those have
least
started
happening
back up.
here
Those are going back.
prior to, it depends on where you live.
Yeah,
We haven't had
totally.
one here for a while, but I like it when it's more like an event, and there's things going on and there's all
Mhm.
different kinds of different stuff. But we have a flea market here that's open every Saturday and Sunday, and there'll be like a reader with a booth there. So it's
Mm.
sort of similar,
Yeah, we
but
have a big one
yeah.
here and another big one in Phoenix.
Mm.
Uh, but let me rewind for a second just to finish that thought. I'm kind of glad that it went this direction because, as I started to say that, when we started out there, you didn't have Zoom meetings and Skype, and we had the phone lines, but that was very, not everybody wanted to work that way. And it was very expensive to do on your own. You'd have to, be on a service working for someone else, basically, even though you were technically an independent contractor and stuff. So a lot of it was in person, but there was the storefronts, and then there was a lot of people read in their own houses, and kind of
Yeah.
dangerous, I like the anonymity of the Zoom meeting, where there's value to keeping your privacy and your personal space, keeping you safe. The other aspect, of course, is just opening up the floodgates. I mean, clients around the world, reading for people in Denmark and reading for people in Australia, it's really
Yeah.
cool. I'm so glad that it's gone this way. I like
Me too.
virtual. Let's see. So Rosie says they do have the booths here still at the fair. Could be a
Oh, cool.
possibility. Laura says there's a big event called Tide in Dallas in May that I'm going to attend. I can't wait. Yes,
Oh,
Tide.
cool.
Isn't that the one that
Pamela Steele will be there, so
right?
be sure to catch her presentation at that.
Laura, you know Pamela. Go look for Pamela. She's one of our staff members. You've been in her workshops, and yeah, so totally. And you guys gotta film something for us so we can play it here. Uh, you know, uh, pre-record. It doesn't have to be live from Tide, although that would be really cool. But if you guys can, film something on your phones, it's, hey, it's me and Pamela Steele here at Tide, and I don't know if she has a booth going on there. If you're in front of the booth or whatever, send us the video and we'll play it here on one of our shows. God, that'd be so cool. I wish I could go to Tide. You're closer than me, Mary. Dallas.
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm closer to New Mexico and Colorado and
True.
Oklahoma than
Yeah.
I am to Dallas.
But you're closer than I am. That's my point.
Yeah.
I'm close.
Okay, that's true.
I'm close to San Diego.
I'll tell you, I have to have a really, really, really good reason to go to Dallas because it's like, oh my God, the
Dallas, Fort
traffic,
Worth,
the constant construction. I swear, I've gone to Dallas, I don't know how many times over the last 10 years, and it's like no construction is ever finished on the highways. They just add more. They're just tearing up more stuff. It's such a headache.
Tucson is like that too. Laura says, yes, I have, and I'll find her and do that. So yeah, we may have some video coming from Tide. And if there's any cool, you could be our reporter on the scene, Laura, you and Pamela.
Our roving reporter.
Yeah, take little snippets of, this is going on, that's going on. Here's this cool booth. Here's me and Pamela, with the selfie, and
yeah, I'd like to get a sense of what the turnout's going to be for that.
Yeah. I mean, the ultimate for me would be if they had something in San Diego. It's only 6 hours away. I would totally jump in the Tesla and drive out to San Diego. And I have friends out there, so I would stay with them in their condo and hang out and go to the event, like going to Comic-Con and so forth. Yeah. Anyway, so we are coming up on the end of the show. We didn't have a whole super big amount of questions in the chat, but that was neat because we got to go into this flowing conversation where the people in the chat also could participate. I like that. I'd like to get a lot more questions, outside of the realm of, what's going on in your personal life, but just, more stuff about the business of tarot and fairs and different ways of reading and, what about this spread or, whatever, different things like that. Rosie, let's see, is that a question? Does anyone here have any experience working anywhere in Tennessee? Is this too quote unquote Bible Belt for this? And
well,
technically you're in the Bible.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My dog keeps moving my camera, the table that my camera.
Oh, I thought that was your foot.
No, that's Ethel. She's moving around.
Hi, Ethel.
Ethel. But yeah, so Tennessee to Bible Belt, like I where I live, and I think a lot of other places make the same claim that, we're on the buckle of the Bible Belt, here in Amarillo. And it's just like, I don't think it is, and I don't think anywhere is. I think that if you're in a town of like, I don't know, population under 25,000, and it's real, like, fundamentalist, in their religion and very restrictive or very conservative politically, then, maybe that might not be such a great idea, but I wouldn't say. I've done readings for people from Tennessee, while they were living in Tennessee. And it's just the same. I mean, even people that are, holy fire evangelical Christians here where I live in this area, you know, there's a lot of them that still get readings. There's a lot of, Catholics that I
Oh yeah.
get as clients, even though they're more like officially we're not supposed to be doing this, kind of thing. So I feel like it's all, it's all
Tar-
possible.
Tarot
Use
started
this.
out in Italy. I mean, my God, us Italians, I grew up as a Catholic.
Yeah.
They did readings. They took readings, I mean,
Yeah.
it's part of the culture,
Well, it's
I,
part of the cards, actually.
but I
And it's a
like,
part of the history of the
but I
cards.
think
It has a lot of that.
a lot of even kind of mainstream Christians still don't have trouble with card reading.
Yeah.
They have more trouble with, some of the other stuff, like the poor, trans folk and so forth, that they have to deal with the wacko ultra right-wing Christians, but tarot, I think, is
Yeah.
just so mainstream now.
Yeah. Like here, the local, university has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas and is, been protesting about the law they're trying to pass against drag shows. So I would say that, the Bible Belt areas right now, the states and, regions that we consider the Bible Belt, you're probably okay as a tarot reader, but probably wouldn't do well with a drag show. Like
Right.
they're
You can't do the
focused
drag
on
show, but you
other
can read
things.
tarot. What if you
Yeah.
wear
And so
drag and you do a reading in drag? I mean, I'm just saying. Uh,
I don't know.
I got
I think it
something.
could get scary.
Yeah. So Rosie says, I live in a small town in the middle of Tennessee. It's very conservative, lots of Confederate flags around. Look, I'm going to tell you this. Number one, read virtually. You don't have to read locally. But number two, if you are going to do it, look for the big events and then you're safe.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've got it in the more major cities, the more metropolitan areas. There's got to be metropolitan areas in Tennessee, right? I don't know. They've got to have psychic fairs or something going on. I mean, some kind of fair, and give it a whirl. Give it a whirl. I mean,
Nashville.
and if it's through partyplanner.com and you're have your services out there to do readings for a party, and somebody in Tennessee in your town hires you to do a party, I think you're pretty safe,
Yeah.
but maybe not opening, like putting a shingle in your front window, putting the hand, or the tarot cards or
Yeah.
something. Maybe not that per se. But I
And
think,
sometimes it has to do with how you present what it is that you do, how you describe your services, because there's a lot of people that do bring spirituality into it, and even mainstream Christianity is part of it. It's what I found with a lot of the southern states, and I have friends that are like very conservative, they're very fundamentalist, but they also are really into natural things. They're into accepting like nature. They're into working with herbs. They're into using crystals, even, So if you kind of tap into that kind of concept of like, this is my approach, and people will understand where you're coming from. If you can get ahead of the message that way, sometimes that can be really helpful, because then all of those things that would make it seem like maybe this isn't the best place to be a tarot reader, those can kind of go away, because then you're not the anonymous, stereotypical, whatever they're thinking, from like the media or wherever, their idea of it. That can shift when you kind of are the one who's like telling people what you do, and your approach to it and where it's coming from for you. Then they know that you're not a crazy devil worshiper or something.
yeah. Yeah. Well, two things. One on the drag queen thing, and another question from Rosie, then we have to get out of here. But as far, I guess Rosie was a little bit taken aback about the drag queens, doing tarot readings. But I got to tell you, they're entertainers, and they would be the best tarot readers, because they're going to sit there and go, bitch, no. I mean, they're literally going to be so funny in their presentation. They're professional performers. They would be fantastic. Rosie says, my sister won't even let me bring my cards into her house. Yeah, you mentioned that before. That is just crazy.
Right.
It's ignorance. It's ignorance. And the most famous tarot deck, Wade Smith, that thousands of decks are based on, has tons of Christian iconography and symbolism in it. Tons of it. Tons. It's so Christian. It's almost too Christian. It burns my hands. It's so Christian. But I want to get to this question from Rosie about, oh yeah, she says lots of CBD in the area. But she had a question. Here. I still don't know all the cards. Would it be tacky to use a guidebook with reading for other people? Okay.
Yes.
I've got two. Yeah, I've got two things on that. One, tacky. You don't do readings for other people unless it's free, where you're telling them, hey, I'm learning to do readings, can I try this out with you? And you can have your book with you and stuff like that. No, if you're doing professional readings, in fact, this is kind of, it came up in, what was I thinking? Oh, when I was reading Kickstart Your Tarot Business, Nicole's book this weekend, and she mentions that in there. This is one of the ways you're ready to go professional. You're ready to turn pro when you don't need the guidebook anymore, when you can put down a card or a bunch of cards and you can just say what you see. You can relate it to the question. Everything off the top of your head, use your intuition and flow. When you can do that is when you're ready to read. Now, that caveat aside, if you're doing readings virtually, like a Zoom meeting like this, okay, you can get away with a lot more. I mean, no, you're not going to be flipping through the book on camera, but if you have a cheat sheet down over here, guess what? They can't see that. If you have a cheat sheet up on your computer screen, behind your Zoom meeting, they can't see that. I use cheat sheets all the time, but nobody knows because it's on my screen, because I tell people all the time, I'm not an astrologer. So a lot of the astrological associations and, what the fire signs are, I cannot keep that in my head, even though there's only 12. I have a cheat sheet up here in the little corner here that tells me, and that's what I'm looking at during the shows. You could get away with that. However, in general, especially if you're going to read in person, no, you can't, that's tacky. It's not only tacky, it's just not professional, and you should be charging money for that.
Well, also, you have to think about what it's like from the other side. What is it like for the client? And, we don't know what beliefs the client has about tarot or tarot readings, before we read for them, or unless they tell us. But, just think of like the experience of that. It's like you're sitting there, you're fully present, you're ready to hear, you've got the burning question, you ask the reader, and they start pulling the cards, and you're like, okay, what does that mean? What does it mean? What are they going to say? And then they pick up a book to look it up. You feel it, you disconnect right there, and you don't feel like it's as personal, and you kind of question, because whether it's fair or not, everybody thinks a tarot reader is the same as a psychic. Which it's not. I mean, there's a lot of us that are both, but still, they're going to think, wow, you're not really psychic if you've got to learn that. You're not really connected to spirit because you're not getting that download from spirit.
Right.
You're not channeling anything. And if they think that all of that, plus you don't know the cards, no, it's not going to do you any good, So as much as you can, whether it's virtually or not, you want to stay connected to the person that you're reading for while you're reading them. And, look, memorizing the cards, there's different techniques for doing that. Dax has some, I have some. We could talk about that, on Saturday even, delve more into, that, because that is kind of a big
Yeah.
stumbling block for people when they're starting out, but you don't get better at that without practice. So if you can, I know not your sister, but if you can read for other family members or friends, or if you're on the Facebook group on our Tarot Guild Facebook group on Facebook, hit up some people there, just write a post and say, hey, I really need to practice this. Or on the website, on one of the forums, you could start a forum thread. It's just like practice readings, like, hey, I need somebody to practice with. We all did that starting out, because you've got to kind of get used to answering questions and how the cards, because if you memorize the cards, say you memorize the keywords, right? Maybe you memorize, like, I don't know, a keyword for the upright and reverse meaning for all 78 cards, right? Those words aren't necessarily going to do you any good when somebody asks you, when a real person asks you a real question. What are you going to say? Oh, victory, fortitude, when you look at those lists of keywords, they don't answer anything. It's just giving you the general energy, or like a very, very general shape of meaning for each cards. But the cards don't really come alive until like you're doing it in a reading, interacting with other cards, like even if it's just a 3-card spread, and answering a real question. Because why are you even pulling cards? You're pulling cards to answer that question, connect with that person.
Mary,
So just some things to think about.
great advice. But remember earlier we were talking about how there's thousands of tarot books, and so many of them are those kind of recipe books and keywords and things like that, and how the niche things, there's like 1 or 2 or 3 books in. And another thing came to mind is the card combinations books. Listening to you talk about that there's not enough specific books on, especially now, 20 years later, from like the first time I saw a book that had card combinations. There's only like 3 or something on the market, and I think somebody could really tap into that, and that would be a great topic to do, because contemporary meanings and how 1, 2, or 3 cards together flows, and card combinations, it's just not enough of it out there.
Yeah, I agree.
So Rosie said, I do read for my daughter now and then. I wanted to mention, I think I was like 19 years old. No, I was out of the Air Force, so 23, 24. And I did a reading for my aunt, and she was one of these, I mean, every Sunday going to church, did all this volunteering at the church. She was totally, over on the right there. She had no problem with me doing a tarot reading for her, though. She loved it, I mean, she looked,
you never know.
In the beginning, she was kind of looking a little askance at me, but once we got flowing, and by the end, she was like, cool, so even the religious people that you're worried about can surprise you. Well, we got to get out of here. We went over, oh my God, but it was such a fun conversation and great information.
It was.
Great information.
Thanks everybody for adding to the conversation. That was
thanks for being here. We'll be back on Saturday. I can't wait. And we'll be taking some phone calls too. So, and our regulars in here, we never get to hear your voice. Why not call in on Saturday? Wouldn't that be cool? Get all of our regulars to actually call in and say hi. Yeah. Well, bye everybody. We'll see you on Saturday.
Bye everybody.
Awesome.
Awesome.